Hi, and welcome to Luxury Legends and Leaders. I'm your host today, Carrie Zier. I'm VP of eXp Luxury, and I am thrilled to bring to you two amazing powerhouses in our industry who have not only built amazing teams, but have absolutely dominated while doing it, have really set the bar very high when it comes to not only luxury, but team building as well. So if you are here today, get ready for an action-packed series of everything we try to bring to you is to help you grow your business. And how is that? It is whether you are new to real estate, or maybe you're new to building a team, or you have just begun. There's so many pitfalls, and we want to really take you through every step that we know, that we've seen in our industry, that we can help you go to that next level. So I'm going to bring in our guest today, Tina Caul and Dan Beer. Welcome. You both are so amazing, and I just got back from seeing you in Cabo. It was such an amazing event, and how you treat your teams, and it's amazing how what you do in every aspect of the business. So I know, Tina, you lead a top 10 team within the U.S. out of North Carolina. Dan, extraordinary guy. That was the first time I got to meet you in person. I heard about the myth, the legend, Dan Beer, but coming out of San Diego, California. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys to tell a little bit more about yourself. And, I think I always get the two questions from agents is, how do I get into luxury real estate? And how do I build a team, right? And you two have done it, both of those so well. So give a little bit about your background. I know in our industry, it's so easy to get caught up in looking at somebody at your status, at your level now. But how many years in the making has this been? And in some of the trials, as you give your introduction, tell, where did you begin? We all began at the very, start of life, but to where you've gotten now has just been amazing. So,
Dan,
ladies first.
Oh, you sure? All right, I can start. So I think that, as far as my journey, 24 years in the business, the first 7 years, I always say I was an average agent because I was copying what other agents in my office were doing. There was really no rhyme or reason, and we just figured it out. And the market crashed in 2006. I found Mike Ferry in 2007. And by 2008, I had systems and processes, a 21-step system to get my business back in motion with a process. And when I realized that you can operationalize this business, it kind of light bulb went off, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And so I went from selling, 20 homes to 30 homes to moving out of my town in Michigan to North Carolina and starting over completely because I felt like I had the confidence. And so when we got here, we went from 30 deals to 50 to 80 to 130. And I stayed kind of small with 2014, we hired our first agent, and we stayed about 7 or 8 agents until 2019. We joined eXp. And that's when I met Dan, who I think is a big part of our growth. Dan, Fast Forward Movement, Kyle Whissel, Mary Maloney, all these great agents, and they were way ahead of us. I mean, Dan showed us the path of what's possible. I had dabbled with things like EOS at that point and tried to put the pieces together, made a lot of mistakes. And for 10 years now, we've been growing our team. And we went from, again, 20 agents. It took 20 to get me out of production. And then we went to 30 to 40, all the way up to 70. Now we're back down to 45. We righted the ship a little bit. So made a lot of mistakes, never set out to grow a team, never wanted a team, never wanted to lead. I didn't even know how to lead myself half the time. So and now here we are as a top 10 team, which is exciting, but I have this man to thank. So Dan, you're next.
Thank you. So you want just kind of a history like that, Carrie?
Yes, absolutely. Tell us about it.
Sure. I mean, trying to go through it quickly. I was licensed in 2005 and just kind of ran around like, just like anybody else. I think Tina hit on this, but let me elaborate on a little bit. Most agents, like one of the mediocrity reasons in the industry, or the reasons for the mediocrity that we have is that there's very little effort in getting licensed, right? And very little. So then you get licensed, and just like Tina, I joined an office and I just started mimicking with what all the other agents in my office were doing. But guess where they got what they were doing from? Well, from the agents before them and the agents before them. And you just have everyone kind of doing all the sort of same things, and none of it very impressive. And at the end of the day, this is a business of differentiation. It is a business of how do I stand out in a crowded marketplace, especially in in a world in which the consumer's starting to see the agent as, and what we're fighting against, right? And with all the tech that's out there and the VC money, the Silicon Valley money, the investors, the private equity that's trying to commoditize our business. So the only real way to fight is to stand out. And I went on a very, very deep journey that I continue to be on of learning marketing at a very, very different level than I think where most agents even think to look, right? They think to look at like, well, what's the open house campaign or the farming campaign, or what does the other agent's postcard say? Well, let me say the same thing, right? And so instead I went deep into the marketing world outside of real estate. And you get to 2010 where I just started to have more leads from that effort than most people, than I could possibly handle. And I started to build a team, but I built it all wrong. And if I'd had this environment, of course, I would be so much further ahead now. But I spent from about 2010 to 2014 doing it totally wrong and had to restart from scratch. And now that was the point at which Beer Home Team, kind of as it's known today, was born. That, of course, it still has iterations and evolution and change. And we've been able to grow at our biggest point. We've been 80 agents here at eXp Realty. As far as on the Beer Home Team, we've had 80 agents. Our highest sales volume year, we actually were only about 35 agents. And we were number one in volume, or for GCI, actually, for eXp Worldwide. And that year, I think that year, the brokerage had around 70,000 or so agents. And much like Tina, well, then we bloated to 80. And much like Tina, today we're at about 35 and completely just getting back to what got us here. A lot of those things that used to work that for whatever reason we stopped doing. I want to point something else out really quickly, Carrie, and just give you the back mic.
Yeah.
This is so significant. Tina talked about how she went to Mike Ferry and learned, and then, everything unraveled or in a good way unraveled, right? Like grew from there. I want to point out that you look at someone like Ed Kaminsky, who's part of the eXp Luxury Council, and more than $2 million average price point, $300 million plus in sales every year, Mike Ferry. So this is not a Mike Ferry commercial. What I want to illustrate is that Mike Ferry is known as, or thought as, like, oh, that's not luxury. That's blocking and tackling. That's calling expireds and FSBOs and just doing like really regular things. Well, one of the messages that I hope we get into here, Carrie, is all those things that work in real estate work in luxury. The reason that most, but like agents, without even trying to do them, without doing what Tina's done, what Ed's done. Here's another quick story for you. What's his name? Harris is his last name. The guy from $1 Million Listing, Los Angeles, the British guy. I'm forgetting his first name. This dude built his luxury business door knocking. So the message is just simply that all of the real estate things work in luxury. You just maybe adjust the message a tad bit, maybe increase the quality of the materials, you increase the presentation, but the blocking and tackling still works. Most agents assume it won't, and so they point themselves at a lower target.
I love it. What amazing points. And I agree with all of them. A lot of agents want to build teams for the wrong reasons. It's, hey, I want to make more money, so I'm going to start a team. And as you said, Dan and Tina, you are excellent on your core basics of this business have got to be in place, in my opinion, before you can go to that next level. And when that core is in place, and Dan, like you said, Mike Ferry or whoever your coach is, but he is a great example of who teaches those core basics. I think, Tina, you said, we come into the business and you spend the first 3 to 5 years just learning those. And I see the mistakes of, agents 3 years in the business, they've had some success. Now, I'm not saying you can't go start a team, but if you don't have your business in place, how can you lead a team? So let's go into that. How did you, because I know we've all made, if we're still surviving 20 plus years in real estate, we have definitely failed forward. So tell us, how did you begin your team? And tell us some of those pitfalls. Like what are the mistakes? I know you've had a lot of wins to get to where you are as well, but what are some pitfalls that maybe a newer team leader is on the show thinking, how can I avoid some of these things and where do I begin?
I'll share, I wrote a talk, actually. Kyle asked me to speak and Dan at an event, and it was if I started my team over from scratch today. So I'll go off memory from there, because when you think about your business, you get a license to be transactional one-to-one. You're a counselor, right? You're a counselor and you're a coach to the public. And you wear all the hats. You wear the admin hat, the marketing hat, the operations hat, the agent hat, the ISA hat. Like, you're wearing all the hats. And for me, I was dumb to think that I could do it all. And I did for years. But I believe that I left millions and millions of dollars on the table because there was one of me and hundreds of clients. And so if I would have actually had the risk tolerance to be able to step out of the business faster and, invest in people and give up some of those roles faster, I would have operationalized the business faster. But I didn't know because nobody showed me. Nobody said, this is what you do. You go 2 years, 3 years, you build a database, and then you hire, an assistant, but then you hire an operations person. So luckily for me, I hired 2 agents. When I was selling 130 homes a year, I hired 2 agents, both buyer agents. And when I saw the flexibility and the weekends come off my plate and the driving around in cars all over God's green earth came off my plate, I was like, this is amazing. This is leverage. And so what I did was I had my business here, my core business, selling 100 homes. But then I was smart enough to say, I'm going to take $80,000 from this business, which I was making $700,000-$800,000 at the time net as a solo agent. I'm going to take $80,000 and I'm going to invest it in an operations/sales manager. And so this woman took the team. She came outside of real estate, but she took the team to 10 agents and she ran sales meetings and coached them and basically took everything that from me that I taught her and grew this business. And then what started to happen was, as I was working over here in business A, which funds business B, this is a brokerage you are building. When you say I want a team, you better believe you are building a brokerage. It's a mini brokerage, but it's a brokerage. So don't do it if you just, don't want to really run another business. But it took 20 agents on this side to get me out of production, because I knew it was a dollars and cents thing. For every agent that joined us that sold 16 homes a year, they made us $32,000 net profit. 10 agents was $320,000. 20 agents was $640,000. So I knew that it took 20 agents to get out of this role. So I stayed in this role, profiting the business while this business was growing. And I think what most agents mistake is they hire 2 agents, 3 agents, 4 agents, 5 agents, and all of a sudden they're the coach, they're the marketing person again, they're the sales manager, they're running team meetings, they're operations, and they're a part-time leader over here. And then these people feel alone, neglected, and they are like, this person doesn't care. They're just out selling homes. They suck. I'm leaving. Team sucks. And it all explodes and you start back over again as a solo agent. So my feeling is, when you're making all that money as a solo agent, don't start because you don't want to do the job. Do the job so excellent where you're making so much money that you have the opportunity to build and grow.
I love it. Wow. Now that is some powerful nuggets out there for sure. You have, you said something about hiring the operations person. We get asked a lot from the leadership standpoint, do they hire that operational admin person first Or do you have to have the buyer's agents first? Or is it all, and it could, because they're looking at, the buyer's agents, they don't necessarily have to pay, but you do have to provide them with something, usually leads. Or did you do it all at the same time?
Well, I did it right away, because my thought is, if I bring a bunch of agents in, yes, I have opportunity for them, but I can't train them. I can't recruit them. I don't have time to build this team. So I'm going to bring in somebody to become me, basically, and shadow me, and then take on that leadership role. So I think it's really important. You could hire, let's just say you hire your first assistant at $60,000, $50,000 a year. You could hire a transaction coordinator for $350 a deal and do 30 transactions, 40 transactions before, and pay 20 grand versus 50. So I think for me, if you're really wanting to grow a team, hire your team leader, find them and help them grow the business while you're still in production making money.
I love it. Dan, is your team, how did you structure yours in the beginning?
I'll give you kind of, I think, what is 5 really key steps that we went through.
Okay.
Number one, the first one happened absolutely by fortune, which was at the first place that I joined as an agent in 2005. Now, gosh, man, this June, it'll be 20 years. So many reasons why I could tell you why I left there 7 months later. Thank God. But one really incredibly important thing happened. In this particular office, nobody did their own transaction management. So on day one, and I didn't know it was weird. I thought this was just the way real estate goes. So this is one of those fortunate things that happen in that respect, is that I have never, not my first deal, not ever handled my own paperwork, my own TC work, my own listing management. Never, ever, ever once. I remember, you go back to 2005, it was $500 for that file. So I mean, in 2005 money, that was probably, a pretty good chunk. But in any case, that was incredibly important. Okay. Because it shocked me years later when I started to coach and, just sort of get out in front of more agents in different parts of the country to find out that people are doing their own paperwork on 30 deals a year. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to do that. And we can dig into that more. So that was number one. Number two was that I created more opportunities than I could possibly handle. Okay. So I mastered one lead source, which for me at the time was SEO through my website, generating organic leads. And the SEO game was very different than it is today. So I'm not necessarily endorsing this. This was 2008, 2009. And I got my website ranked really, really high organically for a lot of key neighborhoods across San Diego. And I was generating at one point up to 17 leads a day organically. And so that was really important, because once that step happened, the second step that I just mentioned, then my next thing was to go hire. Most people go hire an agent. Hey, I have too many leads. Let me hire an agent. What I did was I hired my first admin. I'll just use kind of a general term, admin. Mm-hmm. Now, what I knew is I was already paying $500-ish per file, because I just continued that habit. I was already paying that per file. So this admin that I went to go hire, is a big portion of that person's salary I was kind of already spending the money on anyway, except for now, instead of having somebody that was part-time focused on me, most of the time focused on other people, not focused on my clients after sale, not focused on customer service side, not focused on generating repeat business, not focused on creating the beer way of doing business at all, just processing paper. Well, now I moved that to a full-time position, who took over listing management, transaction management, marketing, and just being my right hand, right? Like, to the point where if I'm on the street and need like an MLS number, I could call, get it, right? Move faster. Well, that helped me handle more of those leads that I was creating. I had more opportunity than I can handle, but now I can handle more of it because I had systems. But because this is kind of the catch-22, where you start doing well, you start doing better, so you start getting more opportunity, right? And eventually you do have to leverage out more. But in any case, my second hire, most people would have gone to the agent. I went to an ISA. So I went that admin that kind of did it all. Second hire being the ISA. And I did the ISA hire far sooner than most people do. But I just thought, well, what's my problem right now? My problem is I'm on the road constantly with people in the car at listing appointments. I'm on the road, mostly in the car with buyers, because my business was 90-something% buyer focused because of those internet leads. And well, I'm starting to not be able to keep up with my lead management, right? So why don't I hire someone to do that? After all, this is a sales business. So that sales management side, sales operations, if you will, through that ISA, I hired that person in-house, not outsourced, sat in the office, learned how I talk to people, learned how I, communicate on the phone, et cetera. And that person became really, really good. And all of a sudden things started to move more, and I could take care of more of those leads that I was generating because the administrative systems were there. The nurturing system was there through the ISA, and I can be on the road more. But eventually, as that became really, heavier and heavier, the biggest thing, Carrie, that I did was I ended up betting on myself. 90-something% of my business because of those leads. So I made a bet on myself. I said, okay, and this person's still with me today. He's actually now the Beer Home Team sales manager. And I said, I found someone that I thought could represent me well with clients. And I may just say, move, which was much more gut based. It wasn't coached. It wasn't something anyone told me to do, but I just said, I'm going to give up 100% of my buyer business. I have a quality human being here that makes sense for the business, is not in his best opportunity. I know that he could have a bigger life here than what he has currently. And I'm going to give up all of my buyer business to this person. By the way, I don't care if it's an athlete, an NFL football player, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I'm giving up the buyer side of the business because I don't have much of a seller side, and I need to develop that. But the key is while it was 90% of my business, it's not like I was going to earn zero. So I paid him his portion, his split. I'll just share what it was, because by the way, these are not it's not my splits now. I don't like talking splits very much, but I'm talking like 2013 numbers. It's old news. We've changed our structure. But at the time I said, look, you're going to have 40% of everything that is buyer. So essentially, Carrie, I gave up 40% of my income, but I got back almost 90-something% of my time, and thought, well, I bet on myself that I could use that 90% of time to create a listing business and that everything could grow. I think most people are unwilling to take that step. They want to only take steps forward. They're unwilling to take one back, or even to slow down. Mm-hmm. And that's challenging. Like, I'm not sure how to coach someone through that.
Right.
You do there's something you have to give up if you want to gain something, bigger, chase your vision. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I see both of you. I mean, I'm taking notes as well. This is gold. Both of you believed in yourself, but you were at a point in your career that when you did, you both backed it. You covered your costs. Like Caul was saying, he was already paying $500 for an admin. He turned that into inside sales agent, which was very smart, because then you could, have that dedicated person to you. Tina, very strategic. You were actually using your sales money and put it over to your operational. So both of you did have to give up some sort of control and change your dynamics to start this team, but you did have your business plan was backing this team. So I love both of that. Giving up control, I think, is hard, and doing it in the right way. And I think how you both touched on that is amazing for all you team leaders out there. And it's really, Tina, you and I have talked a lot about, doing your strengths in this business. Every single part of it is not our strengths. Maybe it's the follow-up. If you're that high I, your follow-up is probably going to be a little lower. A D is so driven and wants to control it all. I'm talking about the DISC system right now. and that's hard for us, high Ds, but you cannot scale without that. So as, tell us more. We've got so many, y'all have hit all these amazing points. When we'll finish up with buyers, I know with the lead systems, we get a lot of questions. as a team, you built this team. You've got this big organization on you. Do you feel the pressure of the leads that you're constantly having to supply? Can you give some of our team leaders that? Because I know there's a lot of different structures. They can go get business on their own, or are you a team that provides really all the leads, or how do you do it? Because again, there's many different ways. There's not just one way to lead a team, but we would love to hear some of that from you. And generally, you don't have to tell about your split specifically, but overall, if you are a newer team out there and you're advising them, how do they split? Is it 60-40? Is it 50-50? Does it depend on what type of lead it is whether it's a listing lead or a buyer's lead? So anything that you can give and share would be great.
I'll take a couple pieces of that and pass on to Tina, and I'm going to take one thing actually back to the previous conversation, Carrie, this control question. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you're going to be a leader, which is what you need, you're right. If you're going to be a team leader, right. If you're going to be a leader, then the level of self-awareness you have is going to be paramount and really directly correlated to how this is all going to turn out. Now, I would just ask you to think, when it comes to this control question, like, how arrogant do you consider yourself to be? And do you value arrogance? Do you think arrogance is a great quality? Most would say no. Confidence is great, but arrogance, horrible.
Correct.
Well, how arrogant is it to believe you can control everything? It's pure arrogance.
Yes. Especially
if you think you're going to control something big and meaningful.
Right.
So you control everything? Sure, it better be tiny. You're probably going to lose control of that anyway, but you can give yourself the illusion with something tiny. But if you're really you cannot, in any kind of serious way, you cannot look yourself in the mirror, talk about building something meaningful, and try to hold on to control. It is pure arrogance. And say you don't value arrogance, right? Arrogant people are and then call them bad names. Well, that's not all matching up. And so just go kind of sit with that idea and think about, what your true belief systems are, and think through that. Splits. I'll go there real quick, and we'll pass it on to Tina as far as how opportunity gets flows through her organization and all that. But Carrie, it's really not a question. There's organizations where the split on a particular lead type, buyer or seller, source is 20% or 30%. And it is more than fair. It is extraordinarily fair given what's going on, how it was generated, the support behind it, and the relationship to other aspects of the entire financial structure that agent has outside of that one type of lead. There's other organizations where the split might be 80% and the agent's getting ripped off.
Right. Because
it should be 90 or 100 because there's nothing really supporting that person. So it runs a big range. Let's call it from 20 to 80 to 85 or so, and maybe even but who's this person? What's the production? How much personal business are they bringing in? What's the support structure of that business? How much admin work do they have to do or not do? Do they have field workers out there that even pick up their lock boxes and clean their face for them when they have milk dribbling on their chin and here, let's keep you clean? Or do they have to do everything themselves? And so it's an impossible question in a vacuum.
It is.
It goes back to the entire value that
I just wanted, if you are a team leader out there, I know you're thinking, what are they? And I like that you said it's a very open-ended question. But it is what you did hit on is agents out there listening is, what value are you providing? Because this is for team leaders. I'm very passionate on taking up for the team members of what they are getting. And I love to see these amazing teams that are providing. And now, whether that split is, like you said, 70-30, 80-20, or, however, there's a many, but what are you giving as a team leader? What are you, the most successful teams have great systems in place. That's why we have two of the best on here. They have their structure down, and you consistently are raising your price point. You're raising your volume yearly, like these two are. because of, to me, the systems are in place, the team members feel valued, therefore you are attracting other team members. Tina, do you have anything to add on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of times splits come into it and everyone freaks out. And you got to remember it's not what is the split, it's what do I keep? And I think, I try really, really, really hard with our agents, our partners, to talk about what they keep. Because when I think about what I kept as a solo agent, I had a ceiling. Dan had a ceiling. We couldn't get to any more deals physically as one human being, but we got to keep 70% of our business. Now, as team leaders, we might keep 10% or 15% of our business, but I got to keep 70% of 100 deals. Or would you rather keep 10% of 1,000? If you look at Tony Robbins, he owns 10% of over 100 businesses. I'll switch with Tony, right? Versus him owning 70% of one. And so when everybody comes, typically all of us, we grew up poor. We weren't raised, with a silver spoon in our mouth. Nobody taught us about money. And so when you come into real estate, again, you want to control everything, which is you can't. And you don't want to give up something. You come from scarcity and you don't want to give it up. And therefore you end up making less because you don't know how to give up to gain. And so for our team, what we really focus on is we show them a pie chart. And when they come in, we'll say, okay, on this half of the pie chart, we've got sphere and open houses and your controllables. You should be able to bring to the team, because you're a partner. I'm about to give you something. You're about to give me something. We want you to focus on sphere. How can I help you grow your sphere business? And when I start that way, they're like, well, wait, don't you have leads? Leads are great, but they're the icing on the cake. So I want you to grow your sphere, your open houses, and you should be able to add 12 deals a month, one a month to your sphere. I should be able to help you by operationalizing your sphere, your open houses, your back end systems. So I will also help you add one more sphere deal. So you can add 12 more. So on this side of the pie chart, we could probably get you to 24 based on your efforts and us supporting your business. On this side of the chart, now we have leads and opportunities that the team can bring. This is all icing on the cake. You should be able, based on the leads that we have, get one more deal a month. And we should be able to operationalize your business on this side to get another deal. So basically, I bring them in as either a new agent or even a seasoned agent and say, I can add 24 deals to your business, 12 on this side and 12 on this side, just by the support that we give you, because we're bringing in leverage. I know how to do leverage now. I understand it. I didn't have it as a solo agent. Here's what you get. So we don't talk about splits. So I don't care about what the splits are. Are 50-50 on a team deal, 70-30 on a sphere. But at the end of the day, I'm about to give you half of my business. What are you going to give me as a partner? And on Shark Tank, you don't hear the sharks or the people that are pitching the sharks say, who's going to take 50% of my business? Usually like, I'll give you 10%. But agents come in and they want 50, 60, 70% of your business. Only in real estate do team leaders give up 70% of their business sometimes, or even half of it. So I think it's got to be a two-way street. But we help them grow their sphere business, their business first, with our operations. And then we say, with all the extra goodies we have, look at what you can do. And now we can take a 10 deal a year producer to 50 in no time. And they'll make,
Are you saying that you make sure they can execute on that side of it first before opening up your company leads and opportunities and appointments?
Well, no, I mean, we open them up, but what we're saying is I want an agent to grow their sphere, because if they think they're going to come here, grow their leads by our leads and then leave and create that sphere, it's like, well, why would you do that? Let's build your sphere. Like, what sphere do you have? If they don't have a sphere, then we got to build it through our leads. Yes, but they do have a sphere. They have people they know. Let's grow that business so we can show them that we can operationalize their business. Like when I plugged into EXP was operationalized my business. I plugged in to pay them something so I could get ahead faster. That's what they're doing. They're getting ahead faster. And every agent we have agents on our team, 10, 11, 7, 9 years. They all make 250, 350, 450, 500,000 a year. Dan, you have an agent making $1 million. They don't leave because they understand leverage. And that's what we really train them on when they come here is we want to be your partner for life, not use us for our leads and leave. And so, we've had really good success with keeping good people based on that. But if they don't get it, they're just going to want to make their 90% and go build a business. And that's okay too. We support them, but make sure you know what you're doing when you're leaving and walking out the door, because you've got all these systems and processes that you have to put back in place, which takes time and energy and money.
Yes. Well, the saying goes, you're as good as the system that you have in your business. And we appreciate the questions. Keep the questions coming in. We love them. Let's talk about, well, some of these, they love to talk about the systems. What would you say? These are hard questions, meaning what would be your top 2 or 3 systems, or your number one that you could not live without in your business that you could share? And what is one, if you can think of it, when in your earlier years that was just you thought at the time it was a great system, but it did not work, or, you wish you would have done it differently? I know those are some tough questions, but the systems do matter. And I'm very passionate about them. And I know that we can help some of our listeners.
Well, I think the first thing, if I were that first person whose comment you put up there, Samantha, I mean, I'd love context as to how many deals she's doing, but the answer probably, right, is that I would outsource transaction and listing management immediately and just have that take up 0 of my bandwidth, completely just 0. And the system that I'd focus on is my CRM and building out the system within, right? The CRM is a tool.
Yes.
How you structure it and use it, that's the system. So I'd build the system in the CRM. And the primary one I'd start with is every single person that's in here is dispositioned, or you can think of it as tagged or staged, statused, as something that tells me where they are in their journey. How soon are they likely to transact, if at all?
Right.
And then based on that, a tagging system or staging system that tells me how often to communicate with them. And 100% of every single person you have, like every lead you have, every contact, every sphere person, everybody should be in there. Second, there's an implied system within that, but I'll articulate it just to make sure that it's not, that it doesn't go lost, right? Because it can be so obvious that you just don't do it.
Right.
100% of your communication needs to be in that system, even with your best friend. Even with your best friend, because, right. And actually one of the biggest mistakes agents will make is treating their friends different than they treat everyone else in their business. They'll give them a half-baked listing presentation as an example. Mm-hmm. And so it's the really...
They wonder why they didn't get the listing.
A huge mistake people make. So anyway, when 100% of your communication's through that, then any kind of modern tool is going to say, hey, your good pals, Carrie, you haven't spoken to her. She's right. We don't have her dispositioned as like upcoming transaction in 2 months and 6 months and a year. We don't know when Carrie's going to transact, but we know that we know Carrie, like Carrie, and she likes us back. And we haven't talked to her in 90 days. The system's going to say, hey, it's been 90 days since you last spoke with Carrie. It's time to call. So we could elaborate on this in so many ways. Right now we can go into like, what's the event schedule for your people? And what's the, do you send market updates or do you not? And do you this and the other? But those are all going to be after the fact that you built this one thing first, which is pick the tool, commit to it, 100% communication through it, and 100% of your contacts staged, dispositioned, using different language here, tagged, because I don't know what tool you're going to choose, right. That tell you exactly where each person is in their journey.
I love it. And yes, CRM is a powerful system. And, as you said, there's many different systems when you look at your overall, from the marketing, from, how you are attracting, how you're growing your team, which does lead us into, unless Tina, do you have anything else on systems?
Well, I just want them to think, I'm going to give you a big statement, to think of, like, there's not 1 or 2 systems, but when you're running a brokerage, basically, which you are even as a solo agent, you got to think of everything as a system. I have 21 things that I make my agents think about. So time management has to be a system. Prospecting system, past clients and spheres system, lead follow-up, there's a system, pre-qualifying, there's a system, the listing presentation, pricing property, handling objections, closing skills, everything has a system. So every time you're doing something, they need to go and SOP it, write that operating procedure. So that way, as they're passing the torch, when they want to build a team, they go, here's the system for this.
Yes.
Here's the system for this. So yeah.
I love that. And you gave some great examples. And onboarding your team members is a system that needs to be in place. I feel like that's one of the number one ways that team leaders can fail the first week is not having that onboarding in place.
Really, really quick on that. Like, I mean, Tina's spot on. There are those at least 21 systems. Now your job is to decide in this current quarter, we're going into a new quarter right now, perfect timing. In this upcoming quarter, what's the one or two of those 21 that I need to focus on and like dial in? And it'll kind of feel like, imagine you're trying to quit smoking. Well, it's going to take all of your focus, all of your willpower, it's going to be a daily struggle until suddenly it's not. And about 90 days later, that one or two systems, they'll kind of be automatic. You can go back to Tina's list of 21, pick the next one or two. And all a business like Tina's is that gets so big, it's these one or two things stacked on one another, quarter after quarter, year after year. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And I'll tell you what, if I was starting with which of those 21 systems, I'm going to really make sure that I pick among my very first ones. How about the mindset system of, is this at my desired hourly rate? Should I be doing this or should someone else? And you might not, it doesn't mean you're going to go make 100 hires that quarter. What it means is that you're training yourself to become allergic to work you shouldn't be doing.
Right. Oh,
so
I love it.
And the one tool, Carrie, they should all have is this, a phone.
Number one, I love it. All right. So we've got systems in place. I've got our team. We have built all this out, but how do we scale it? How are we growing the team? Two questions that they want to know is, one is, you guys are at the level people want to be on your team, but how did you get there? How did you make it where you are actually attracting those? Because at first, did you go out and, did you have parameters? How did you build and scale your team? Tell us.
People found me. I don't know about you, Dan, but I always say Laura Payne found me 11 years later. She's still hanging around. He was like, hey, you look busy. You need help. I'm like, you're right. You're breathing. Here's some buyers. Like, literally, there was no system. It was, and I remember Laura came up to me one day. She goes, are we ever going to have a team meeting? I was like, oh, yeah, we should probably have one. Hey, what do you want to talk about? Like, here's our team meeting. Like, it was just, we just went before we were ready. Leo Pareja, our CEO, says it all the time. Every job I had, I was unqualified to do. And I think a lot of us, we start as imposters. I still have imposter syndrome today. Sometimes I'm like, what the hell am I doing running this team? But I think it's because we have the, I don't know if it's like, we're just dumb to the fact that we don't know, but we're okay to be in that unknown. We're okay in ambiguity. We thrive in it. We're like, we'll figure it out as we go. I think so many people overthink it and they're afraid to make a mistake. Dan and I have made a lot of mistakes. In fact, more mistakes than our successes, but therefore we succeed. And so you look at any pro athlete, they're going to miss more than they make, but they took the chance anyway. And so I think there is no perfect plan. And remember, your team is only as good as your weakness and your strength. Every team is going to have a different flavor because Dan has different strengths and weaknesses than I do, and same with me. And so self-awareness is the biggest thing. You can be any kind of leader as long as you know your gaps and how you can fill them. Because if you don't have a lot of ideas and you don't have that vision, but you have great executing themes in your strengths, you can say, okay, I'm going to go find a partner that has vision, and then together we'll be rocket fuel. So you got to find the balance when you're growing and be very self-aware.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. It's like the technical answer for me, Carrie, is I already gave you the answer. the reason people are attracted to the structure, so to speak, is that one or two systems, quarter after quarter, year after year, and then you end up with something that helps people do their business a lot easier. But Tina hit on, I think, more importantly, if I like say it differently, like this thing of just like, well, just doing it. It's most agents are kind of waiting to be awarded by like the external world as like, you know, Tina, you may now follow your dreams and here's your certificate from the heavens where you can now, but well, that's never coming unless you just provide it to yourself. The only one that will ever give you the license to do it, to be it right, is you. So it's this concept of outside in living versus inside out. It's the concept of be, do, have, which is, you know, I'm sure there's a ton of YouTube out there on that. It's like a really core philosophical, but like very real, very tangible concept of, are you going to wait to, you know, most people are have, do, be. Like when I have these things, then I'll start doing the things that Tina does. So I'll become her. Well, no, it's you just start to be it. And if you, from an identity standpoint, just be like, I am now this, I am now someone who works. Well, like my identity is I am now the example of how a real estate professional would behave, right? Like, well, great. Well, how does that person behave? What does that person do? Well, that person works out of their CRM. Awesome. Well, start doing that and find out what you end up having, right? If you be it, you'll start doing. The having will come later. But anyway, so I wanted to just make sure to share that. And then also I saw a comment from Fred, is most of your team member, or are all your team members in your downline? Mm-hmm. No, not even close. This concept that your team members would have to be in your downline is the wildest, craziest, most short-sighted thing possible. Fred, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, obviously, lovingly, right? And we've all asked ourselves this question, but let's just help you get to the answer and do it in a straightforward way. Why on earth would you not have all of eXp Realty? The beauty of it is you could have people from across the country in all down. Who cares about downline? A team member is going to bring, in Tina's case, she said $32,000 is the bottom line. Well, I think that's way more than rev share, isn't it? So why, you know, and it can be a lot more than that. I'm sure at this point in Tina's career, she has some team members that bring her multiples of that. So the best thing you could possibly do is to get people to send, like eXp, it's amazing. You have people incentivized across the country to become your recruiter that you don't even have to pay because Glenn pays them for you. But you're worried about the downline money? Like I just want to make sure we knock that one out like immediately. And
Fred feels the same way we do, Dan. He was just asking for Fred.
I love Fred. I don't know Fred.
Job, Fred.
That answer is not for Fred. The answer is for everybody watching who
yes,
asks that question, and too many that make that the mistake.
I love your passion behind it, Dan, and I agree with you. As we build, you know, Glenn said something in a meeting the other day that I loved, and it was on to what you two have touched on, is don't be afraid to break something. And, you know, I love a leader out there that encourages us to move forward, because it's impossible to go through life and not to break something, right? And it is the doers. It's those that do take that risk to go forward. And I know I have loved being here with Tina and Dan and just learning and the insights of building a team. It is not for everyone, but it is certainly achievable for those that do take the time to put those systems in place and really go after creating something amazing for agents, you know, that as we grow this amazing company that we're in. As we're wrapping up, do we have any other questions? We definitely want to hear all from you. We appreciate your time today, and definitely these two rock stars that have come in and their busy schedules to share team building. It is a beautiful thing within the real estate world. We are seeing more and more teams pop up, you know, and as Dan, I think, said, they all come in different flavors, and it is fun to see how it is growing, not only in the US, but really globally. I'm seeing teams pop up as well. So again, our final words are thank you all for being here today. This was such a treat. I know Tina and Dan are accessible offline as well as I am. So if you have any questions about joining EXP or simply how to grow your team business, be sure to reach out. And we are here the fourth Wednesday of every month. And this was our third show. So thank you to these rock stars. And we will all see you next month. Take care.
See ya.